Welcome to Exception Seekers, the show where we challenge conventional views on youth mental health and explore stories and experiences that offer alternative perspectives. I'm Colleen McLean, and today I sit down with Jarvis Strong, who is the Executive Director of the Escarpment Corridor Alliance in the Southern Georgian Bay, Collingwood area. He moved into this role after a significant background in nonprofit management, outdoor education, and camping, holding various leadership roles with organizations like the YMCA, Camp Quality Canada, Big Brothers Big Sisters, Camp Summit, the Tim Horton Children's Foundation, and Alive Outdoors. Jarvis is originally from Kitchener, has an honors in recreation and leisure studies from the University of Waterloo. He's a dad, an environmental advocate, and I can't wait to get to share more of his story with you all today. Being a young person can be tough. Raising a young person can be tough. Whether it's school stress, family dynamics, or navigating challenging emotions, everyone needs the right support. That's where Sound Youth Counseling comes in. We specialize in helping children ages 4 and up through individual, parent, and family counseling tailored to meet each person's unique needs. From tackling tough issues at home or school, to providing customized workshops and professional development for teachers and community leaders, we're here to make a difference. At Sound Youth Counseling, we believe young people deserve a safe, welcoming, and accepting space to grow and thrive, and every family deserves the tools to support them. If you're looking for support, visit soundyouthcounseling.ca and see how we can help. Sound Youth Counseling, empowering individuals, supporting families, and building stronger communities. Well, Jarvis, welcome. I've been so looking forward to catching up with you and hearing all about what you have going on. So thanks for your time today.
Well,
coming on.
thank you, Colleen, for this very thoughtful invitation. It was nice to hear from you after many years. And I've been following along and listened to a couple of your recent episodes with one turned out to be with a mutual friend. And I thought that is something really cool that you're doing.
Oh, well, thanks.
So yeah, really happy to be here.
Thanks. It's so interesting. I was reminded even just to go when I was looking through your bio of how many different times our paths have directly but also indirectly crossed along the years. I always think that's so interesting and with people and all the different things. So yeah.
Yeah, we have had a few different kind of interesting intersections, and I find it really cool to watch how you and I met through the world of kids camping and outdoor education and things like that. And I'm always fascinated to see where, friends and colleagues from that world end up, what they choose to do next.
Me too.
We never really end up anywhere. We can, continuously move along on our little journeys. But so I'm not at all surprised to see that you're doing something really meaningful with helping young people and families and so on. But always fun to see where people, choose to go next.
It is. And I'm always so curious to hear the stories of how people got there. So maybe let's talk about your story for that. You're currently executive director, the first, right? Executive director?
Yes.
For the Escarpment Corridor Alliance.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yes.
So what is the Escarpment Corridor Alliance?
Yeah, it's an interesting name. It sounds quite ominous. So the Escarpment Corridor Alliance, or the ECA as we call it in this day and age of acronyms, is a long-winded name. We are a regional conservation organization in South Georgian Bay, Ontario. But I kind of like to say, conservation done differently, in that we have a really business-minded, actually, and holistic approach. A lot of conservation organizations led by very passionate folks that are concerned about environmental issues, forest loss, habitat, biodiversity, things like that. We care about all those things very much, and that's part of our origins as well. But I've sometimes observed since taking this job that that's where a lot of organizations stop. And when you're only talking about protecting species at risk in nature and things like that, you're not really capturing the bigger audience, because you're sort of talking to the choir, if you will. You're talking to folks that already deeply care about the environment and various animals and trees and all these sorts of
Mhm.
things, the green world, if you will. But when you think a bit broader about it, which is what we do at the ECA, and think about how to connect with people that are maybe a little bit more on the fringe, that appreciate appreciate the outdoors, but don't necessarily consider themselves passionate environmentalists or
Okay.
tree huggers, as we
Okay.
sometimes
Yeah.
say. And I love
Yes.
tree huggers. I definitely have worn that hat many times.
Yes.
But if we think about kind of conservation, where it's like almost protecting nature and keeping people out, we're really limiting
Mm.
a low ceiling on what we can succeed. And what I think the world
Hmm.
needs right now is us to think really big about conservation and where people fit into that. So I think about conservation done differently. And I actually borrowed this phrase from, I believe it's the Biosphere organization near you and in Perry Sound,
Hmm.
but the idea of balancing people and nature. And I've really come to rest on that idea that, well, we talk about us being a conservation organization, we're really about finding how people and nature can be in balance, how we can, stimulate business and things like that, how we can have more nature-based recreation.
Yes.
Recreation is, I kind of sometimes call it the gateway to environmentalism, because people fall in love with the great
Yes.
outdoors and then sometimes become more engaged in advocating for it. So anyway, that was a long-winded
Right.
answer, Colleen,
Hmm.
but that's what we do. So we're,
Yes.
we're a land trust. We advocate for smart, sustainable development and for biodiversity and all these sorts of things.
Okay.
And so, yeah, we're in the Collingwood Blue Mountains area
Okay. Yeah, I was going to
and
ask,
beyond.
what is your region?
Yeah, so South Georgian Bay, it's about 2,000 square kilometers that include towns like Creemore, Collingwood, Wasaga Beach is kind of on the fringe,
Okay.
Meaford, Flesherton, and so on, kind of out towards the edges of Owen Sound and down as far as kind of the Mulmer area and Shelburne in our area. So on the grand scheme of things, relatively small, but for our area, thinking a little broader than some of the original environmental
Hmm.
organizations.
Hmm. And so this, because the ECA is fairly new, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we were founded about 4 years ago, and I
Okay.
joined the team 3 years ago as I said, I guess the inaugural executive
Hmm.
director, initially as like 2 days a week as a consulting
Okay.
ED. And we were doing something that was resonating with people, and that was successful. People wanted to get involved, people wanted to donate and support.
Yeah.
So quickly grew into a full-time job. And now we're a team of four, soon to be five staff. So it's been,
Wow.
yeah, it's been a really fun ride
Hmm.
and kind of a dream come true because I feel like I'm doing something that I really believe in. It's in
Hmm.
my own kind of backyard region.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's going to be like whatever we achieve, it matters and it's going to be around long after I'm uh, back to back to the dirt, so to speak. My legacy, if you will.
Yes.
So that feels pretty good knowing that you're doing something as someone like you that spent years working with youth, doing
Hmm.
something for the next generations and so on. So I'm
Hmm.
very happy with what I do.
Oh, I love hearing when people have found something that feels like really aligned for them of because you spend a lot of time at work or what you do, and I think when you can find something that aligns with your values or where you want to spend your energy, that's really special and unique because I don't think everybody is able to find that all the time or
I
maybe
feel
moments of it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I feel really fortunate. I mean, I certainly have days where I'm not looking forward to particular tasks, but I can honestly say that 9 work days out of 10, I'm looking forward to getting out of the bed in the morning to do whatever's on the list
Yeah.
that day.
Yes.
And it's important to have a work-life balance. But when you love what you do, sometimes it's okay that there's a bit of a gray area. Like sometimes I
Hmm.
don't know where stops and fun
Hmm.
personal time begins in my days, which is kind of a cool
Yes.
feeling.
Yes. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
So,
And
okay, so you talk about, you're not sure what's on, maybe like what's on the to-do list or like what does the ECA like so idea is conservation done differently in trying to like reach other people in a way, but like what's the is the goal like fundraising to protect areas? Is
yeah,
it like
yeah.
infrastructure in like
Our mission is to
Yeah.
create, is our real focus is to create a protected and connected ecological corridor across our region. So
Mhm.
this whole idea of protected connectivity,
Okay.
if you've, anyone that's spent a significant amount of time outdoors, hiking,
Mhm.
canoe tripping, and things like that, that healthy ecosystems where you are going to see plants and animals thriving are pretty broad and connected and not little islands.
Mhm.
And for a number of years in conservation, we had a lot of parks created in the previous century, which are great, but they kind of create these islands of biodiversity. They're not necessarily connected.
Mhm.
So the new thought is not just more protected land, but strategically connecting it. And so we want to create this mosaic, this patchwork quilt of different types of protected land that all connect to each other in strategic places where plants and animals need it most and where people need
Right.
it most. So I sometimes talk about, thinking of wildlife, but also creating spaces for wild people to roam,
Yes.
wild people like you.
Yes.
So yeah, so that's the whole thing is this corridor.
Okay.
And so we work with other organizations like the Bruce Trail is a big one in our region.
Yep.
It's already, they've traditionally referred to themselves as this ribbon of wilderness, this footpath, and they still
Mhm.
do, but they now also call themselves their work conservation corridor. And we're doing the same thing, but we're kind of creating this overlay network beyond just the trail itself. So,
Yep.
yeah, connect and green space. That's what we
Yes.
do. And we do that by educating people, bringing them along, showing them about some of the concerns and issues in our region.
Mhm.
And then when they're, really engaged, we're doing things like having people donate parcels of land as a land trust. So
Right.
someone who's maybe got 100 acres that's been in their family for many years, and maybe the next generation isn't as interested in owning and holding those lands, or
Mhm.
maybe they just really want to give it back to the community.
Mhm.
And so that's what we do. So I
Mhm. Mhm.
fundraise to enable all of these different activities. So
Yes.
it's education, it's science, it's
Yeah.
advocacy, community awareness. I
Yeah.
love variety. That's something I really thrive on. So I do a little bit of everything, but yeah, fundraising and kind of
Mhm.
the storytelling is a big part of my role.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and knowing you and your ability to make connections with people, I can I can see that being a huge asset for, for the ECA and having you in that because being able to like pull people in and get them, on board or just like interested in something, all those little like conversations. I'm picturing you out and around the area,
I love it, and I never
meeting people and
stop.
chatting and
Yeah, I never stop because I enjoy it. So, like on that note, like this morning, I was dropping my car off at the mechanic, which is a little ways out of the town I live in, and I got
Mhm.
shuttled back in with some other total stranger sitting in the front seat. And I was like, oh, what the heck? I'll make sure this guy's heard of the Escarpment Corridor Alliance. And so
Yes.
you strike up a conversation with these total strangers, and if there's any sense that they're interested, you run with it. And if they're not, that's fine. But I love talking about it because I'm just so
Yes.
proud of what we're doing, and I really believe in it.
I can tell. I
Yeah.
can tell. It's a neat perspective too, even just hearing you talk around like people's use of land. Like I often think of conservation. I think of like the very first one I would have known, right? Like I grew up in Waterloo, so it was the Laurel Creek Conservation Area.
Yes.
And it was this like fenced, like protected specific space, and you could go and visit, but it was kind of this sense of like, this is I don't know. Like this is a special designated area, not total like to use, but also not to use. But there, I don't know. There's just this like different mentality with it of, and when you reference the parks, thinking of like Algonquin Park or something, right? It's like, yeah, there's like borders and boundaries and kind of visitors too, but not stewards of different. I don't know.
That's what I think
I'm,
that what I was trying to refer to, like
mm,
when we protect nature, but then kind of create a feeling of kind of keeping people out, which is
mhm.
sometimes what nature needs most. I mean, we've done our
Sure.
fair share of damage on this
Yes.
planet, as we all know. But for the people that are not already, aware of the need to protect this planet that we live on,
Hmm.
you need to let them access it to
Hmm.
fall in love with it. Like I wasn't a crazy nature bug as a kid. I also grew up in Kitchener-Waterloo. This is one of
Mhm.
our many
I
intersections.
know. Yes.
I didn't really fall in love with it until I somehow found myself out in Kananaskis, Alberta, in the Rockies, age of 19, right out of
Mhm.
high school. And it just knocked my socks off, like how big and
Right.
raw and
Yeah.
wild it was out there.
Yeah.
And then that gave me this appreciation for nature,
Mm.
which later translated. And when I moved back to Ontario, I was able to really start appreciating all the different types of topography and ecosystems and so on, not just the grandeur of the Rocky Mountains,
Mhm.
places like Algonquin and even places like Laurel Creek and Waterloo.
Mhm.
But you have to let people access nature to fall in love with it and then want to protect it. And so that's this conservation done differently, balanced approach
Mhm.
that we really take, where we're really encouraging people to get out in nature
Mhm.
and want to preserve it, and not when you're told you have to do something or that you should do something, you're not very likely to do it.
Mm-mm.
And so you got to get people to want to preserve nature, and
Mhm.
that's a big part of our philosophy.
Yeah, the should comes with a lot of like, ugh. Like
Yeah,
you say should
like
or need, and I just think, yeah.
yeah,
So
if someone says like I should stop eating candy bars every day after lunch,
yeah.
they're aware that it's not a good idea, but they're going to keep doing it. But when they
Yes.
say, I want to do this, and then they can
Hmm.
make a commitment statement, I'm going to do this,
Hmm.
then it comes from a real place of action. So,
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, and giving people the chance to explore it. Like I remember, one of our other cross paths with the Tim Horton Children's Foundation.
that's right.
Seeing young people have the opportunity to come and be either, just out of the city or in one of the like backcountry canoe trips hiking trips that they would go on, right? And like experience that or like see the stars because the city lights aren't there, or just that change for them. And then when they would come back the next year, the desire for it, they'd want it and look
Oh, they
forward
get
to
hungry
it.
for it. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But that first introduction is, yeah, so important.
Yeah. So, and
Yeah.
that's particularly, I think, we sometimes refer to this Collingwood area as kind of a near urban nature environment, and
Mm.
where you're up in Perry Sound.
Yeah.
Perry Sound itself is a small city, large town, but amongst, I would say, wilderness, as many people would
Yes.
say, like it's a much more wild area, whereas our area is this real mix of agriculture and
Mhm.
forests and wetlands, less than 2 hours from Canada's biggest population center.
Yes.
So it's even more important, or not, it's not more important, it's differently important,
Yeah.
because people can day trip, people that are maybe they're new Canadians, or maybe they've always lived
Mhm.
in downtown Toronto or downtown Kitchener and really just never had a chance to really get out of the city. And then when they get a
Mhm.
chance to do that, it can have these aha moments. But they can access this area in a day trip. They don't necessarily have to
Yeah.
go away for a week.
Yes.
You can drive up here in less than 2 hours,
Hmm.
have a meaningful, pivotal experience in the great outdoors, and then go
Hmm.
home that same night and be thinking about it as you're driving back. Like, I want more. So,
Hmm.
but that same ease of access for the huge amounts of population add pressure to, and that's the need for our work as well.
Yes.
Development.
How do you find, like, how does your organization fit in with, um, I'm trying to think of the word. What's the word? When like it's fabric, interest, like, how does it fit in right now with everything that's going on, with development in Collingwood, which is going so fast. It seems, dude, the
Yeah.
last time I was there, it looked like everything had doubled, you know, and
Yeah.
and the current, with the government and all, just so many different, and I would imagine sometimes conflicting agendas. How do you navigate that?
Well, we fit in very carefully and thoughtfully and strategically. Like it is a bit of a delicate dance and a bit of an art at times. When we first started 4 years ago, even before I joined the team, we had a bit more of a focus on advocating Originally, kind of against what were dubbed some mega developments or inappropriate developments in sensitive areas.
Okay.
That was what sparked our organization, and that's sometimes referred to as, NIMBYism, not in my backyard.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that's actually, and I had moments where I tried to kind of, not broadcast that these were our origins. But actually, when I talk to other conservation organizations and land trusts,
Mm-hmm.
most have the same story. It
Oh,
starts with a
interesting. Yeah.
concern about development or something bad happening
Yes.
to these natural environments, and then it grows to something that's more issues and solutions based, and that's the same thing. And then it becomes, I like to say, more of this positive NIMBYism or YIMBYism, yes, in my backyard, because you're not
Yeah.
fighting against something, you're fighting for something. You're fighting for nature, and you're
Mm.
fighting for smart, sustainable development. And
Mm-hmm.
so we're very careful to not be positioned and perceived as anti-development. We're really not. People
Right.
need, there's more people moving to Ontario and Canada and this area that I live in.
Yeah.
We need more houses. People need to access the near urban recreation that I've been talking about, that it
Mm-hmm.
exists in the hills of the Blue Mountains and on
Mm-hmm.
Georgian Bay. But we just need to do it in a smart way where we're being careful on where we're developing. So
Yes.
we're trying to do things like really encouraging our municipalities and their official plans to focus development, especially the need for affordable homes in existing settlement areas. So not slapping totally new
Mm-hmm.
subdivisions in the middle of nowhere where
Right.
there was a pristine forest, or equally important, farmers' fields.
Yeah.
Ontario is losing on average 300 acres a day of
Oh,
arable land.
wow. Really?
So while we're talking about conservation,
Yeah. Hmm.
forests and the birds and the bees and all this good stuff, agriculture is under as much or more threat as we are.
Interesting.
And agricultural lands are also still great at things like carbon sequestration and
Yeah.
all the things
Yeah.
we need for climate change.
Yes.
So it's
Hmm.
it's very careful. And to that point, like tonight, I'm going to speak. I was invited to speak at the local Builders and Trades Association.
Cool.
So it's
All
timely
right.
to ask that question, because it's
Yeah.
not a group of tree huggers. Wonderful folks, and I can't wait to meet them tonight. But
Yes.
people that their jobs and livelihoods thrive on building,
Right.
for the most
Yes.
part, new buildings. Sometimes, remodeling old
Yes.
homes. But
Yes. Hmm.
it's, so we're not saying don't build. We're just saying,
Mm-hmm.
let's be thoughtful in where we're
Mm-hmm.
building.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
so that,
I, I
yeah,
can see you being, yeah, that's going to be a very interesting audience. And
yeah.
that's pretty cool that they reached out, you know,
Yeah, I love
to
it. I
have,
love it. It's easy to
yeah,
go and talk to, the Nature Society or whatever, where people are
sure.
already,
They love you
the
before you even
choir.
start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'd have to really go out of your way to blow it.
Hmm.
Whereas I enjoy the challenge of speaking to folks, and I know lots of these people will be very supportive of what we're doing, because
Hmm.
they live and work up here, and people just like Perry Sound that choose to move here or stay here appreciate their natural surroundings.
Hmm. Hmm.
So we're just, being
Yes.
just really trying to promote that
Yes.
smart, sustainable
Yeah.
development, but you have to find the win-wins.
Yes.
So
I could see you being a real asset to to neighborhoods or communities that are concerned, you know, to like have you involved or to, but also to like the builders and the developer side and then the municipality side. Like I could see that you representing, like bringing a really important perspective that kind of almost helps everybody feel heard in some ways. You know, I'm almost picturing you as this like middle part of a wheel, the
yeah,
spokes off, right? Of just like,
yeah, I
look,
guess
we're
that's,
all trying to do this together, but for some groups that can so quickly kind of go head to head on some things.
yeah,
Yeah, that could be
being
an
a,
interesting position too, you know?
and that's a skill that, and I mean, I appreciate you saying, kind of directing that to me, but the organization is, I've got some amazing mentors and volunteers and board members that are doing it. But me personally, I realized earlier in my career, like,
Hmm.
the art of connecting and bringing people together is a
Hmm.
huge skill. And so it's something that the organization in my area has become really good at. And I
Hmm.
do personally put a lot of emphasis on that in my own life. But yeah, having a relationship based approach where you can talk to
Yes.
sometimes opposing views And sometimes it's an agree to disagree sort of situation, but if you can
Yeah.
get people that wouldn't necessarily be mingling around the
Mm-hmm.
same table and getting them to think a little bit differently, a little bit broader, it's a
Mm-hmm.
pretty good feeling. It's a big win. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's a big part of what we're doing. And that's again, that conservation done differently or, with an entrepreneurial business minded approach. Because for this to work in our region, we need to kind of see that our regional municipalities, we have 6 or 7 that we work with, that you don't have to choose between the environment and a healthy environment, healthy economy. You can have
Yes.
both
Yeah.
if you come at it a little bit differently. So you can invest in something that
Mm-hmm.
we call a nature or conservation economy.
Mm-hmm. And we
Um,
need this so much right now. So
and you need it
yeah.
everywhere. I'm talking about
Yeah.
my area because we're a regional organization, but I have
Mm-hmm.
these same conversations with provincial and now national organizations as well. And so this is a common
Yeah.
theme. I'm happy to see this conversation's happening everywhere, not just in my area. But we're
Yeah.
happy to be, I would say, leaders or a leader in perpetuating these ideas and trying to
Yes.
get it out there, get people thinking, bigger and differently.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the art of connection.
Yeah, the art of connection. And so it a bit of a I mean a bit of a pivot, but something I was thinking of as you were talking around just this, ability to connect and help people hear different sides or just yourself hear different sides. Um, Growing up in camp and having worked in camp for so long, often, especially as a young person in it, you often would hear, I don't know if you did, but I often heard the like, well, at some point you'll need to get a real job. You can't do this
Oh yeah.
forever. And I remember in staff trainings trying to think about how do you show value in these jobs beyond on a resume, beyond, camp counselor or something, right? It's like these skills that you're learning can be so broadly applied, but like how do you do that or how do you even recognize that? Um, as someone who got some of those experiences, and now is in this position that you're in, like what would you if you were talking to I don't know, talking to camp staff or looking back on it yourself, like what do you think, like what did those experiences give you that maybe on paper as a job title of, I don't know, camp counselor or outdoor educator or something, maybe isn't captured in job title, but
Well, it's a few different threads I want to pull on here. I mean, first off, I would say it's still the best job I've ever had as being a camp counselor.
Mhm.
And no offense intended to my school teachers and university professors, but everything I really need to know in life, I learned at camp.
Mhm.
I'm an on-the-job learner, and a lot of that from being a camp staff. I actually didn't go to camp as a kid, which is interesting because most of the people I've got many camp friends someone who's been a camp director and assistant director and so on. 9 out of 10, went to camp as a kid. And I did go to some city day camps in Kitchener, but
Mhm.
never went to sleepover camp until I was a counselor at 19. But I would say I guess the short answer to your question is don't underestimate the power of relationships and the ability to connect with people, which is a big part of camp. I remember giving the
Mhm.
kind of the orientation speech or session. I was like the for a number of years. What was I like the boys section head leader or something like that? And
Mhm.
we do a community meeting and we would talk about what it means to live and thrive within a community in your
Mhm.
cabin in this communal space that you're sharing, and then as a camp where you've got a few hundred people sharing a relatively small amount of space, and the way you need to act and think and behave for everybody to be
Right.
happy and healthy and safe. So that ability to connect is so important. So I'm always interested. Kind of,
Mhm.
we started this conversation about where camp professionals end up, but
Mhm.
relationships, I think, is the number one skill. Like if you can connect with people quickly and deeply, which a lot of camp people are really good at, there's
Mhm.
not much you can't do. And that's a good thing for me because I did not thrive in school, did not
Mhm.
thrive academically, I should say. I was really good at the extracurriculars, but I was a
Yeah.
C plus, B minus guy through and through,
Yes.
all the way. And so it was really good that I was able to realize this is something that I can market in myself when I was
Yes.
out there hitting the beating the street, handing out my resume after leaving camp and so
Mhm.
on. Yeah, so relationships, the ability to connect and motivate and inspire
Yep.
people is huge.
Mm,
And kind of, I guess, to dovetail a little bit of that, and if I kind of think back, because you were talking about growing up in camp, and I think back to not growing up in camp
mhm,
and actually um, not being overly um, really, not being super happy in those early teen years. And I think
mm,
back to like grade 8, 9, 10, being pretty lonely, and not the thing that I was missing was this sense of belonging.
mhm.
And this camp was not in my life. And it was the lack of good friendships that I had for a couple of years. I had a couple of close friends
Yeah.
that actually taught me to connect. So
Mm.
not being connected forced me to learn how.
Yes.
This is where I'm going with this, by the way. You're probably starting to wonder, where the heck is he going?
No, no, no. I'm following.
Um,
I'm like, yeah, I'm
this is
here.
I'm taking a roundabout
I'm
way.
right here for it.
Yeah, yeah. But so not having grown up in camp, which teaches a lot of people to accelerate these experiences,
Hmm.
really taught me and forced me to find this sense of belonging in different places, and being able to mix with like any group at school. Because in grade 9 and 10, I was that lonely grade 9, getting stuffed in a locker and not having not
Yep.
having a great experience. And then it took one of my now mentors to see a little something in me. And I remember grade 11 that started giving me the confidence that taught me, like, oh, I've got this ability to connect with different crowds of people, different
Mm-hmm.
circles. Like, I didn't have I wasn't in the sports group or the
Right.
theater. I wasn't really in any group.
You kind of floated.
Kind of floated, but
Yeah.
where I'm going with all this is that I use that to my advantage later on,
Mm,
learning to be a connector and a relationship builder by not being in one group and not having that sense of belonging.
mm.
It really taught me to appreciate how powerful that feeling was, and to go out and seek it in lots of different circles. And
Yes.
I do that to this day, where I don't really have one group of people that I only get that feeling of belonging with.
Yes.
That was a really long-winded
No, no,
sidebar there, but I feel like there was something relevant in there.
I think you answered my question.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what led you, what led you into, because it was sports and recreation, right? At Waterloo?
Yeah, yeah, I did.
What led
Yeah, I did
you,
rec. Yeah.
what
Yeah.
led you into that?
Am I allowed to be totally honest?
Yes,
Yeah, okay. I thought it was a
please.
bird course when I signed up.
Okay.
My parents were like, "Listen, we're going to support you with university if you go right away. Don't take any breaks." They knew that I would,
Uh,
not
the
go
risk
back
of
if I took
the,
a gap
yeah,
year or anything like that. And that
yeah.
was back when we had grade 13 in Ontario, which I very much needed, and I
Oh
do think
yeah.
most kids still need.
Yeah,
Oh boy.
come from the
So
same era.
they were like, all right, you got to go to school or get a job right away. There's none of this. And, if you don't do it right away, you're on your own to pay for it when you want to go to
Right.
school. So I did it. And I was, and my, guidance counselor was like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, oh gosh, I don't know. And I was shocked to learn that a lot of my friends had been thinking about this for years. I had just started to really love and thrive in high school
Hmm.
near the end. And now that was coming to an end. And I thought,
Right.
oh, recreation. I mean, like, it's actually called recreation and play. How hard
Right.
could that be?
Right.
Turns out there's actually a bit of a science to it and a business to it. And it's not the bird course I thought it was.
Yes.
But I did learn a fair bit. But more than anything, the connections and relationships I
Mm.
made with fellow students and
Hmm.
professors and so on was my real takeaway. So that's how I got
Right.
there. But why get so yeah, one of the answers to your question is I thought recreation was maybe going to be the easy street. And I'm sure it was
Yes.
compared to maybe, computer science and engineering.
Which is just funny though, because I think of anything at the University of Waterloo as probably being pretty hard.
Yeah,
So
it was. It was. I
it's
mean, I went to Waterloo because
it
I
was
was looking
close
at
by.
it was close by. I
Yeah.
could live at home, which I didn't necessarily want to do, but because I was
Yep.
a camp counselor and not making a mint every summer,
Hmm.
couldn't afford to, live out.
No.
So that's what I did. But I ended up going to one of the best schools in Canada, which was lucky.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was a thing. And then I think part of the other reason I chose that path was, I mentioned briefly a few minutes ago, a bit of an aha moment. And halfway through high school, I had this teacher see something in me Kevin O'Reilly, still a friend to this day, he was my teacher, and he invited me into this, encouraged me to apply for leadership phys ed in grade 11. And that was
Okay.
my turning point year. And so I found myself doing various things, getting involved in student activities, running programs. And
Okay.
that's where I was like, okay, I could be good at, recreation, running a recreation business, or maybe
Yes.
working for, um, a resort or a municipality, things like that. So
Yes.
that was kind of this turning
Mm-hmm.
point. And, Mr. O'Reilly really taught me about relationships and
Mm-hmm.
all of these things, and gave me the confidence as another little sidebar here. But I think this is somewhat important to the art of connection
Mm-hmm.
conversation. My last year of high school, uh, I really went from being like the loneliest kid in grade 9, and then having the confidence to run for student council in the last year.
Wow.
And I remember, but like it was a long shot because I was
Yeah.
still not feeling super confident about myself, but I had developed this
But that's a big
group of
shift.
friends, and
Yeah.
I remember running against like an ultra popular guy,
Mm-hmm.
and I was an unknown student, and I was able to get in because when we're campaigning in high school, I don't know if all schools still do this. I didn't focus on my grade. I just started introducing myself to all the grade 9, 10s, and 11s, and just being nice to them and asking, "Hey, what's your
Right.
name? Like, oh, where are you from? What do you like to do in school?"
Yes.
And so it was the younger students, and I didn't do it in a way that I was just looking for these student political gains, but I was generally interested because I could relate to these young guys. Like it's only 2 years
Yes.
ago that I was this kid who was afraid of all the big grade 11, 12 football players and getting stuffed in the locker and all these sorts of things.
Yeah.
And so that was the reason I was able to have the success, is I was able to connect with these different circles. And in this case, it was the younger grades that most of the seniors just ignored. So that was the secret sauce there. And then I used
Wow.
that, throughout my career, like never making any assumptions about different pockets
Mm-hmm.
of the community or society, just, giving everyone
Mm-hmm.
the benefit of the doubt that there's some value in getting to know them and being curious and, saying hi to
Yes.
everybody.
Yes.
Anyway,
Oh yeah, and it is. It's the like just the sincerity of those interactions. And but I Mr. O'Reilly, that's pretty cool. The
yeah,
like
we're
the
we're still
power,
in touch today. It's really fun.
just like the power of influence of things like that, right? Of just needing having that one person at one moment to say, "Hey, I see this in you," or "I see something different," or "Have you thought about?" Yeah, that can be such a
Yeah,
pivotal shift for people.
it gave me this jolt of confidence in
Yes.
myself that I had never really felt before.
Yes.
And it was life
Hmm.
changing for me.
What is he doing now?
Well, he was a teacher and then a VP, and I think he's retired now. We still talk a bit because we have a shared love of the game pickleball. And
Okay.
so
Yeah.
we had talked at one point about maybe trying to go in a tournament or something together, but he lives not too far away. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we haven't seen each other in years, but it's neat when,
Hmm.
later on you become friends with someone who was once your school teacher.
Yes.
But to that point, this isn't maybe a question you specifically asked me, but the other thing I would say to like those young camp staff and whatever is like find a mentor, and sometimes they're your
Hmm.
friends, but I've got
Hmm.
3 mentors in my life that have really taken me where I am today, and I'm very proud of what I've achieved. And one was Mr.
Hmm.
O'Reilly, another was my first camp director with Tim Hortons,
Okay.
a fellow named Jason, camp nickname Pitts, that you might have crossed
Okay.
paths with, still friends today. And the other is one of your previous guests, Jal Bosley,
Oh yeah.
who's like a big sister to me. And,
Yeah.
with that art of connection, the other thing is like, yeah, like find mentors,
Hmm.
listen, ask questions, and just surround yourself by people that you like the way they've lived their life, and
Hmm.
try to see if you can pick up a thing or two from the way they've done things. And so,
Yes.
yeah.
Is that how you identified them? Like it was just you kind of noticed something in them and thought I
I
could learn
was
from you?
I was I was just drawn to people.
Hmm.
All 3 of those people had confidence and skills that I was drawn to, and so you surround yourself with people that
Hmm.
I don't know. It's not about being successful. It's about I think being happy in your own skin, and all those people were really really
Hmm.
happy and confident in their own ways, but did really well in life because I don't know, because they had those qualities. And so I sought
Yes.
out those qualities. And so, yeah, I think that's really important.
Hmm. I, and I think that I know you said that could be for, camp staff because we were talking about that too, but even just like high school students, because I think
Especially.
it's so
Yeah.
hard. Like, and 4 years now. I mean, yeah, I actually didn't do all 5 years because I really hated high school, but there
Oh,
was 5 years at the time. Um, but thinking now for kids, you have 4 years to figure this out, and I think there's just a tremendous amount of pressure that's felt on I have to know now and I have to know right away, and it's an investment, obviously, of like money and time to go to school if that's what you choose to do, and what if I choose wrong? Like I can't change, and I think it's really nice to hear stories like yours too, where it's like it wasn't until the very end of high school that I even had this sense that I could do anything or felt like I found myself or
yeah. And that self-worth. And we talk about
that,
confidence, but it's
yes.
also that worth that I've got something to offer the world.
Yes,
Yeah,
even if it's
I
like
don't
I'm not
know.
sure what it is, but I think it's there and I'll
Exactly.
find my
Hmm.
path
Hmm.
to live it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because you've done a few
Yeah.
different, yeah, because you've kind of meandered your path to where you are now in many
I
ways.
would say meander is an understatement. I have wandered. My parents have definitely lost many nights of sleep wondering where I would end up.
Yeah.
So happy that I'm gainfully employed.
Yes.
But yeah,
Cheers.
yeah.
Cheers for
So
that. Yay.
yay,
Yay,
hey,
employment.
employment. Um, and I've had some of the unemployment as well. But that's the that tough stuff is also that gives you the grit in life.
Yeah.
Having some tough times. But yeah, I guess coming back to that though, yeah, like to any young people out there, do good in school, study hard, all those things, but surround yourself
Mm.
with people that have the qualities that you
Yeah.
want to embody and find a mentor. They don't have to be older than you.
Yeah.
Often, in my case,
Yes.
they always were a few years older or much older.
Yeah.
But I would say that I've learned more from my mentors than all of my schooling combined just by
Hmm.
just watching and admiring and paying attention
Yeah.
to how the choices they make, how they treat other people,
Yes.
and so on. And so
Yeah.
mentorship is huge. And to that end, I think another place we somehow intersected years ago, one of the charities that I previously ran was our local Big Brothers Big Sisters chapter,
Mm-hmm.
which is
Yes.
all about mentoring, having a
Yes.
big brother, little brother. And that was one of my other favorite jobs because the whole
Mm.
point was helping kids find
Connection.
that connection and that mentor, that special
Hmm.
big in their life.
Hmm.
So yeah, so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it is that. I mean, I've been very lucky to get to be led by and witness, learn from people who are like very skilled at what they do. And yeah, being able to recognize that and take advantage of it. The learning
It's
opportunities,
it's
it's
huge.
it's huge,
It's
and it's
huge.
definitely outside of academics are important, for sure, but it's all those other things that you learn along the way that then you figure out how to apply. Hmm.
100%, 100%. And that again, I think weaves back to that, like the importance of learning how to build relationships.
Yeah.
And not just with people that think the same as you and have a similar background and so on. Like so
Yeah.
that relationships, connecting,
Yes.
to seek that feeling of belonging and share that with others is
Yeah.
so important. And finding a good mentor is one of the best ways to get yourself on that path.
Mm-hmm. So when you think about where you are now, because you have kind of taken a number of different risks along the way.
Yep.
And, even this job, right, is like out there, it's different. It's probably not something you planned for years ago when you went to Waterloo. Um, for like seeing different ways of doing things, can you think like, are there moments, maybe with Mr. O'Reilly, I don't know, maybe you've already touched on it, but are there moments, experiences that you look back on and you think like, I think that was significant. This is really what gave me the confidence to go out there and be able to take those risks.
Yeah, I think it does go way back to the middle years of high school for me. And so yeah, I guess maybe I did kind of touch on that a bit. Um, those turning points, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
going from lonely and low self-worth
Mm-hmm.
to feeling that little bit of zip, that pep in your step.
Yeah.
Um, I think that really was. I think the best moment. So I'm using the same material already in this short podcast, Colleen. But when
No,
I
it's,
when I think
yeah.
back to someone believing in me, I guess is maybe the one word I didn't use when I touched on this before. But the
Yes.
fact that somebody believed in me to offer me a special opportunity was huge.
Mm-hmm.
And so knowing that you have someone in your corner is life changing. And if
Mm-hmm.
you're out there in your career and you have the ability to give that gift of belief to someone else,
Mm-hmm.
don't underestimate that,
Mm-hmm.
because it can be life changing for them. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It can give them that self confidence and self worth that they need.
Yes.
And sometimes it's just that little bit of momentum, that little
Mm-hmm.
kickstart that can
Yes.
make a world of difference.
It can. And I think especially, not being a parent, right? Like having it be, if you can get that from someone outside of your family too, it can be like really powerful, right? Of like someone else has noticed this or has my back.
Yeah, someone that
Hmm.
didn't necessarily have to do this. They went out of their
Yep.
way and chose to
Yeah.
believe in you or to give you an opportunity or whatever. So that would be
Yes.
my, yeah, I guess my
Yeah.
moment, if you will, where I realized that I think a little differently, and that I have, self-worth and I have
Hmm.
things to offer the world and the community. That was kind of where it started.
Yeah.
And then the more I learned to connect with other people, it's exploded from there. But yeah, no, I didn't think I would end up running a conservation organization. And I've definitely, for our generation, like I think we're both mid 40s.
Hmm.
We were told right out of school, like you're gonna have, I don't know what it was, 5 careers or something like
Yeah.
that. Like I think I'm on 19 right now. I don't know.
Yes.
But I'm
Yeah.
I'm finally doing something that I could see myself actually, riding into the sunset doing this one
Yeah.
in different ways because it ticks all the boxes.
Hmm.
I love what I do. I think it actually matters to the world and to my community.
Hmm.
It does enable me to take care of my family, which is great. So, at the end of the
Yeah.
day, a job has to compensate you to, to pay the bills and
Yeah.
let you,
Yeah.
be healthy and do the things you want to do. So, yeah, very excited to have hit this point in my life. But there were definitely moments where I wasn't sure if I would ever get there,
Hmm.
because I have definitely flipped careers and jobs many times looking for
The fit.
that fit. And I guess it's that
Hmm.
word again, that in my career, that sense of belonging in my career where I've kind of found my thing. And who
Yes.
knows, maybe in 5 years I'll be doing something differently. But if you had a crystal ball over there, do you have one?
I don't
Okay, I
know.
thought I
I
saw one on
mean,
your desk there.
yeah, no.
Um, take a look for me. But if you were to tell me that, hey, Jarvis, you're going to be doing this in 20 years,
Hmm.
I would be elated. And I love doing something now where I have, mid late 40s. I have friends that are now every year sharing the countdown to their retirement.
Oh, yeah.
And hey, to each
Okay.
their own, but I
Okay.
don't get that. Like
Mm-hmm.
life is pretty short, and I
Mm-hmm.
just, find something you love doing. And it can't always be what you get paid to do, but I feel very fortunate that I have that. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
not worried about when I'm going to retire and things like that. Like if I'm working until I'm 75, that's fine.
Yep.
Because, I think I do something worthwhile every day.
Yes.
Enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I am very appreciative of what you're doing because I think it is really important. And it's nice to know that there are organizations like yours that are out there doing it. Thanks for listening to Exception Seekers. Tune in again as we continue to seek overlooked stories that offer new perspectives, disrupt limiting beliefs, and inspire transformative approaches to nurturing youth mental health.
This podcast was produced by North Star Networks, the guiding light for progressive media.